Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Strip by Sia, your podcast for strippers, sex workers, and all the fancy naked people in between. Welcome back to season 3. I just launched that a couple of weeks ago, and I feel great about it. I am super stoked to continue this conversation and these important topics and bring these stories on to the show because there's not only a lot of sex workers that listen to the podcast, but there's also a lot of civilian vanilla muggle people that also listen to the show as well that use this as a resource for education around the topic of decriminalization of sex work. So thank you for listening and getting this far in the world of my podcast. I am Steph Sia, aka Kimchi. I am a digital content creator as well as a now again former stripper since the clubs are closed again because we're on third lockdown here in Vancouver, Canada, which is annoying, but c'est la vie. And I am also a former sugar baby. I also work in a corporate job as well. I have a YouTube channel. I have all these things on the internet and I just need a lot of outlets because I have a lot of things to say. But enough about me because there's another person that I've brought onto the show today who has a lot of things to say, and she goes by the name of Evie Brookes, and she is an escort here in beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. And I think it's really cool and serendipitous how Evie and I met. So we have a mutual friend in common. We were in my old neighborhood, walking along around the park, and then we ran into Evie, and I noticed Evie's bag that said something about sex work is real work or sex workers work, and I was like, hey, I like your bag. Like, where did you get it? And I think she said something about, I got it in Germany or Berlin or something, and then I was like, that's really cool because I'm a sex worker and I have a podcast and blah, blah, blah. And then she was like, I actually heard about the podcast. And I was like, what? So that's kind of how we met. And it was really cool. And then I'm like, I need to get you onto my show. So we started chatting. And now she is here today to share her story about escorting, about fetish work, about body, yada, 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 and body image and thin privilege and all the things. So I think I've rambled on enough. This is actually the longest intro ever, but Evie Brookes, are you there?
I'm here.
She is here. The queen has arrived.
Welcome, subject.
It's so nice to have you on the show, and I'm really glad that we were able to connect on such a random, cool way. And yeah, now you're here.
Yeah, it's cool. I actually heard about you like when I started doing sex work, and I talked to our mutual friend, and I told her that I was venturing inwards, and she was like, "Oh, you have to meet my friend." And so I've known of you for a while, but I just put the pieces together.
Hey. Well, you know what? Better late than never, and you're finally here, and we finally got to connect, and thank you for your patience, because I had meant to record with you like over a month ago, but then I'm moving, and all this stuff happened, and April's been crazy, so...
You're forgiven.
Yes. It's April during the time of recording. This will be released in May, so yeah, but yes. Did I do an okay intro for you, or how was that?
Yeah, I loved it. I was like just sitting there, like waiting. I was like, "Do I interrupt?" No. It was so sweet. I loved it.
Yay! Did I get everything?
You did me justice.
Thank you. So, like, honestly, like I never know much about people. I just stalk them online for a bit, and I'm just like, this is what I think I know of you.
Mm-hmm.
So
you have a tough job.
It's been interesting. Sometimes I just like to read off people's Twitter bios or Instagram bios and cheat that way. But why don't you give the audience your own introduction about who you are and what you do, and go.
Okay. Well, yes, I'm Evie Brookes. I am a full-service sex worker, an escort. What else? I have 2 cats.
Ooh.
I'm in my 30s.
Yay.
I am fat. What else? I sing. I act. I taught myself how to paint watercolors over the pandemic.
Ooh.
And I have a real knack for it.
Cool.
Yeah, I do lots of stuff. I'm a big weirdo.
Oh my gosh, you do a lot. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yay. Well, I can't wait to get into all of it today. I mean, we're going to be mostly talking about sex work and what you do.
Yeah.
But
You
yeah,
mean
like,
this isn't a watercolor podcast?
no, I mean, maybe it should.
Oh.
Oh, my bad. You didn't get the
Oh.
memo?
I gotta go.
I'm on the wrong show. But yeah, why don't we talk about how you got started in sex work? Because I think you've been at it for the past like 5 or so years now.
Yeah, well, I've been actually at it for a little bit less than that.
Oh, okay.
Maybe closer to 3 years.
Okay.
But yeah, I've always wanted to do it. Like, I've had, that kind of sort of curiosity and I guess you'd say maybe fetish for wanting to be paid for my body.
Yes.
And I always thought that was a real turn on. And I guess like as I kind of moved into being in my 20s, I was like, I just kind of always saw that for myself at some point or had a real curiosity about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was serving. I was a waitress for like 15 years. And, it got to a point where I was so enraged every day that I would go to work about like the customer service element, but also more the manager power relationship.
Yes.
Because especially, I mean, I think this is like everywhere, but in all industries, managers are often less skilled than their employees.
Yes.
And
100%.
much more arrogant.
Yes, I agree.
But no offense to those good people out there. Not all managers, I guess. But yeah, I had a couple of tough relationships with managers, and you may get this from me, but I'm not a very meek person. So managers often didn't like me, and I just started to get so angry about the experience of being controlled and exploited. And I felt like, especially in the service industry, it was like this thing of, I don't know, just, you know how the service industry is. It's crap.
Oh, yes.
So,
Long-time veteran here as well. So, yes, I understand completely.
Yeah. And I also felt it was destroying my body. I was in, I have chronic pain, and it was really bad. Anyway, so it was just a bad situation, and I knew that I needed to get out of it. And the way that I saw my ability to get out was through sex work, and had tried a couple of times in the past, like kind of like started to dip my toe in, and then like maybe I just wasn't like emotionally ready for it,
Okay.
And this time it just seemed to feel right. So I made the decision. I gave my notice in December of 2017, and then I started working my ass off, Googling and just reading Reddit, mostly a lot of Reddit.
Yes.
And I learned a lot on Reddit, and just trying to think about what ways I wanted to approach this. And I actually started by thinking I would try camming, which I think a lot of people start thinking about that way.
Totally.
Because it's definitely, billed as this like work from home and do nothing, and you just have to be sexy and you'll make a ton of money. And then I quickly realized that actually it's a scam. And if you work on cam, it's the worst. It's the worst. So no offense again to people who love to cam, but it seems
I have comments. I have comments on that too. But I agree with you too. I briefly did some camming last year during the pandemic, and I was like, oh my gosh, the conversion rate here is
you work
awful.
Real hard for nothing. Yeah, which I noticed quickly as soon as I started reading people's experiences, and that it seems like the golden age of cam is over. So actually what I started noticing was that a lot of people who were talking about being cam girls were like, if you're interested in getting into cam, you should actually try Night Flirt.
Okay,
And
yes.
so then I started looking into night flirt, which is phone sex for people who don't know. And it's been around for a long time, and it has really kind of like loyal customers and clients. And so I thought maybe I'll get into some phone sex. And then when I was trying to decide what type of phone sex operator I wanted to be, I started thinking that I wanted to do some dom stuff because I was like getting really interested in all the fetishes that people have, and they're so very interesting.
Yes.
And I was like, and also like, you know, I'm queer, and I have actually not, like, until I started doing sex work, had not been in a sexual experience with a cis man for 10 years.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and so it was a really, like, I was like, how do you talk to men? Like, what do men do? How do their genitals work? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, I have been with cis men for sure, like a lot, and in my youth, but it was like I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to have to talk to men again. And so I was just thinking, like, I was actually feeling like I don't even know how, I don't understand any of this. So I started thinking about, like, if I was going to, I felt like it was going to be hard for me to approach fetish land in phone sex if I didn't have any real world experience.
Right. Fair enough.
And so then I thought maybe I would explore doming and, like, being a pro dom. And so then I started researching that. And then what I realized is actually, like, why does anybody do anything but in-person work? Because that's where the money is.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I started kind of like thinking about how escorting and pro domination would be the kind of most bang for my buck, basically, that I'd be able to make the most amount of money and have the sort of greatest impact and use my skills to their, like, fullest potential if I was in person with people, and also, like, be able to have not spend as much time doing the work because I
Yes.
was feeling very, very burnt out and really physically exhausted. So I needed some time to rest.
For sure.
So,
Wow.
long story long, then I made a website, and I decided that I wanted to start doing sensual domination. I'd like try my hat at doing doming and also doing some escorting.
Wow.
And yeah, so that's how I started.
Oh my gosh, such an incredible journey.
Yeah.
And like I
Yeah.
love how you just tried everything a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
See what vibed with you. Camming wasn't your thing. Night flirt, although it works for people, didn't really work out for that too. And then
Yeah.
going into doming and then going into sensual doming. Can you speak a little bit about the sensual side of domination? Because I feel a lot of people will think dominatrix, okay, latex and like whips and like really aggressive nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's like a very common stereotype for
Yes.
DOMs. It's not my nature to be mean. Um, it's not, and I'm not a hard person. Though I do love the concept of men feeling humiliated. I don't feel like it was very natural for me to want to hurt them, even if that's what they wanted.
Right.
I found when I was in sessions, I immediately went into a role of kind of being like a mommy dom. I was
Okay,
like,
yeah, that's a whole
yeah,
thing too.
I wanted to, like, I wanted to hold them, and I wanted to, like, make them feel like I felt like they were more like childish, and I was kind of, anyways,
Ew,
brought up some
okay, cool.
attachment stuff for me. So
Yeah.
I felt, yeah, I just, again, you asked about sexual domination. So
Yes.
I think that the thing that I like, what I learned, I mean, I'm not a dom, and so it's definitely, like I'm not the perfect person to speak about it, but what I learned about it was that it seemed like a lot of people have the expectation that if you're a dominatrix or pro dom, that you never get touched, and you know, you have this sort of like, yeah,
like
kind
standoff
of the
quality.
only way that,
yeah,
what's that?
like a standoffish kind of quality. Like they won't be able to have any.
Cruelty,
Yeah, that kind of vibe.
And I think there's a ton of ways to be a dom, and a lot of ways to be a sub, and so, you know, the things that we see are very reductionist, but I don't know. I just mostly wanted to, like, I think the reason for me of going into sensual domination is that I actually wanted to be having intimacy with my clients, because being intimate and close is actually that's my skill set. That's my sort of peak Evie Brookes. And
okay.
yeah. And so I was, going under a different name then. I was under the name Clara Rose. And so it just didn't quite fit for me. And I started to actually get very bored as well. Like I felt like very kind of like, I don't know, I was like, I don't care. I don't care what your stupid fantasies are. I just want to give you a kiss, you know? Give you a kiss and a squeeze. That's what I want to do.
Right.
So I rebranded and started doing that.
Yeah, and you're the self-claimed makeout queen, so it seems
makeout
fitting.
Queen. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, well that's really cool.
I do love to make out.
It's a great activity for sure. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, you probably have had some, and I was actually going to speak about this later up, but we could talk about it now. But you have been affected by COVID, as I'm sure a lot of us have been. Within your services, was making out something that you eliminated? Because I know I was speaking with a couple other escorts on the show recently as well, and that's something that they actually took out for the time being until things started to kind of get better, depending on where they were, or like if they were vaccinated or whatever. But what's your take on that?
Yeah, I just actually didn't work because I felt like it was like I don't know, my understanding of why people come to me is that they want to like stare into each other's eyes and rub each other's faces on each other. So it's like, it was like, I don't really see, like, I'm like into BJs and stuff like that, but it's not like my number one skill. I'll just kind of put that out there. Like, I'm fine at it, you know, and it's like, that's okay. But like, actually the biggest reason that I get, interest is because of the sort of like intimacy and sensuality of my brand. And so I just felt like if I wasn't able to do that, there really wasn't a lot of point in sessions. So I just stopped working until I got vaccinated.
I was going to say, you just got vaccinated. I saw this on your Twitter. Congratulations. I'm still waiting for mine.
Thank you. Yes, it was, really, really exciting moment. And so I plan to be back at work in the next month.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Very exciting.
Well, that's awesome. I'm really, really glad that you got vaccinated. I am jealous. I am patiently waiting whenever that day will come, because it's slow here in Canada. I know the rest of the world. There's a lot of American listeners. I know a lot of my tons of American listeners. And I know a lot of them have already gotten vaccinated. So yay! But here it's the rollout's been kind of slow. Yeah. So we are just waiting for that. But
indeed, twiddling our thumbs,
doing fuck all. I mean, I'm actually busy, but like I wanted to ask you. Well, obviously, because you mentioned you stopped working completely. Like that must have been an insanely difficult pill to swallow, because it's still going on. And I'm assuming you just got vaccinated recently. I think I didn't check the date, but. How was that for you? Because that is a scary thing to think about, like just stopping all major forms of income. Because, we had CERB, but that's not close to anything to what we were making before.
Totally. Yeah, well, I feel like, it's been a really challenging experience. I mean, I also feel really lucky it's so weird, the pandemic has affected people so differently. Like I have friends who are just working, 60, 80-hour weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just sort of sitting around staring at my empty calendar. Like I have one, tiny, very small group of people that I can see. And yeah, it's been really lonely and
Yeah.
horrible. And I don't know. Not working is such a challenging place to be because we are so conditioned by capitalism to attach our worth to productivity.
Yes.
And I don't know, like I'm a Libra as well, so
Hey, me too.
you
Yes.
have Libra vibe. I just feel like balance, not to be, predictable, but if I don't have balance between my work and resting life, like it's really uncomfortable. And
Yes.
I have been feeling like, and sometimes I'm like, oh, this is nice. Like I like not working, but you can't really rest when you are feeling financially insecure.
Mm-hmm.
And also like the pandemic is traumatic. And
Yeah.
so, and I went through a really brutal breakup,
Oh
sort of halfway
no.
through, and that was really painful. And yeah, it's been really hard, just really emotionally challenging. And
Yeah.
I'm also an artist, and I do live performance and collaborative live performance. And so it's very challenging to not be in studio with people, moving around and touching bodies and making art. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's just been stupid. I hate it, and I'm ready for it to be done now.
Me too. Amen, sister. Like I am so fatigued by it. Like it hasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely has affected me personally, both physically and
Yes.
mentally. But I'm really
Yeah.
just trying to see the good out
Hmm.
of it all. But
Yeah.
like in the beginning, it was kind of nice because I was like working like a maniac before,
Hmm.
and I was like, oh,
Hmm.
well, there goes all of my jobs, all of my
Yeah.
jobs. So that was
All of them.
crazy.
I know.
All of them, yeah. It was
Yeah.
just
Same
like
thing.
that. Pulled the plug
Yeah.
overnight.
Yeah.
So,
And like all the industries, like I do a lot of different things, right? And
mm-hmm,
all of my industries are like face to face, in person
right.
stuff, and one to one kind of client service provider stuff. So it
Mm-hmm.
definitely feels like I was just like, what are the uncertainty of whether or not the industries would survive and when they would be back, and what, like I honestly have had like periodic meltdowns about the idea of having to return to the labor force.
Oh gosh,
And
yeah.
like, because also there's just like this kind of social rhetoric of getting Canada back to work, and don't be
Yes.
such a lazy, suckle on the government teat taker. And these, just like this sort of very, I don't know, yeah, anyway, just disappointing social narratives. And
Mm-hmm.
obviously people want to work and have financial security, but the feeling of having a boss again makes me want to, I don't know, eviscerate myself. I want to disappear. It's horrible. I
Oh
never
my
want to
gosh.
do it.
I hear you. Like, and it came to a point where last year when CERB was ending, and CERB, though, for those who are not Canadian, CERB is like a government government handout. No, honestly, it helps. It was like $2,000 a month
Yeah,
to kind of cover your bases, which for
yeah,
me that was okay.
yeah,
That
totally.
that was fine.
I
But
I'm
like,
very lucky to have affordable rent, and
mm-hmm,
so that the CERB, and which transitioned to the Canada Recovery Benefit, which is
right,
like or like employment insurance for people who don't qualify for EI,
right,
which I have also been on. Those benefits have been like life saving, and
yes,
I mean, we're being self employed. Like you don't always know that you're going to make $2,000 in a month. Like
yeah, it's so true.
many times you aren't, and so it's always like it's a different kind of struggle than being employed and having a boss, for sure.
Yes.
It's a type of precarity that is definitely scary. So that's been a nice relief, for sure.
Yeah, like I mean,
Hmm.
thank God we had that. I mean, it was something, so that was really really good.
For sure.
But yeah, I mean, like now I'm excited for you to start transitioning back into full service work. That's super exciting. Have you been preparing in any kind of way or like
Yeah.
promoting it?
Well, I mean, I have been in touch because I've had some requests throughout the pandemic from eligible suitors. And, I've just basically been like, I'm not taking clients, but I will keep you posted and let you know when I'm back at it. And so I've been in touch with a few people. And so we're kind of like gearing up to getting ready to see each other again. And I'm going to start working from a new space. So that's good. I was kind of running an in-call before that, had to close its doors due to COVID, obviously. So that was
Right.
really sad and, yes, kind of scary to not have a place to work. So,
Yeah, no
so
kidding.
now I feel like I'm starting to get set up again with all the things, and I'm going to have to teach myself how to engage with men again.
Relearning, going back to
Yes.
school.
Yeah.
Well, let's go into more of like, yeah, I want to hear more about your escorting work. Just because like you went through again, like how you said earlier in the show, so many different types of sex work, which I think honestly is really great. Like you went through camming, you went through night flirt, then you went through you started with some kind of dom work as well, and then you found your niche and you kind of found your place. And I'm always interested in hearing that journey, that process, and like how you got there. So thank you for sharing. But now I want to hear more details in terms of like how you further prepared yourself. How did you make your brand? How did you form that to bring you where you are today?
Yeah, well, okay. When I started as Clara Rose, you know, I think like when you start doing sex work, you kind of just eventually like you can do all the research you want, and
Yes, you
it doesn't
can.
really matter. And then you just have to kind of do something. You just
Yeah.
have to see a client and see how it goes and whatever. And the first client that I saw was a fetish client who had a fart fetish.
What? Oh
And
my
yeah,
gosh.
and I like in it, okay, I'm a very your clients close your ears, but I'm a very gassy person and I really enjoy farting. And
Perfect.
I had always had this like kind of funny like, curiosity of like, oh, there's people who love fart fetishes. I just want to fart on
Yes.
someone's head. Like I just really wanted I just really wanted to fart on a man's head. And and so I just kind of put it out there and I was like, yes, I do these fetishes, and I was just very open minded in the beginning and curious because I didn't know, yeah, you don't know exactly what your boundaries are until you kind of cross them
Yes.
sometimes.
Oh yeah.
So especially with sex work, you learn on the job and you learn real fast.
Yes, you
And
do.
yeah, so I wanted to try these things that I felt a little bit of my own fetishization about,
Mm-hmm.
and curiosity. And what I found relatively quickly is that many people who have who are like attracted to fat women
Mm-hmm.
also have a bit of a filth fetish.
Oh,
and
oh yeah, I have heard
and
this. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and so I think, if you look at like, BBW porn, a lot of BBW porn, and sort of the ways that we are encouraged to market ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
there's like a kind of like dirty, like poopy piggy kind of like
Right.
overeating kind of grossness fetish, that's
Mm.
attached to fatness. And that makes sense because of the way that fat women are perceived and kind of constructed socially.
Totally.
And so I felt like, yeah, I just felt that being connected to me in a way that didn't feel authentic. And there's a type of like raunchiness that's sort of expected from fat women.
Right.
which is really connected to, yes, like to fat phobia and anti-fat bias about like fat women being desperate or fat women being like hungry for the cock because no one wants to fuck them. And so they're going to give you a better blowjob or, whatever, just all these like stupid ideas. And anyways, I had so many requests for like brown showers, which is pooping.
Yep.
And farting and belching and overeating and those things I don't inherently have like negative feelings about, but the fact that I was noticing that they were being connected to my fat body made me just feel really bad.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, I just stopped being interested in these fetishes because they felt so demeaning and reductive
Totally.
And my like sexuality, as an individual person, outside of being a sex worker, is like I have a very soft sexuality, and I really like in general things need to move pretty slowly for me in my relationships sexually to feel like I have, a connection with people and like I can actually be physically aroused. And so I was thinking about like, what's the easiest way, like what's the easiest part of my sexuality to like channel,
Yeah.
in terms of branding. I was like, how can I connect to the most available sexual version of myself in order to make this work feel doable. Yeah, so after I realized that I didn't want to be doing fetish and dom work anymore, I decided that I wanted to rebrand and kind of just get a little more true to myself.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, so then Evie Brookes came on the scene, bitches.
Yes. Damn right.
Yeah.
Wow,
Is that what you asked? I can't remember what you asked.
No, that's a perfect answer because I wanted to segue into that big girl energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like being a BBW, plus size, whatever you want to define yourself as. Because I've had a couple of BBWs on the show. I've had Karina Riviera, who I'm sure you know. Yes, she's local. Yes, she's excellent. And then I also had the porn star Carla Lane on the show as well. And like I think we need to talk about this a bit more and talk about body and all the things that you mentioned too, because like as you said earlier, fat bodies are associated, like stereotypically associated with being raunchy and being filthy and dirty and stuff, and like they're not ever really seen in a sensual way. And it's so problematic.
Yeah, and also kind of just like sad because like fat bodies, like, I mean, obviously everyone has their own, kind of connection to sexuality, but a fat body is like so soft. Like so soft and squishy, and sometimes you want to like rip it around and do crazy shit to it, but also like I don't know, it's like for me anyways, inhabiting a fat body is like, I don't know, I feel very kind of like fluid in it, sexually, and I don't know, I just love soft touch and subtle sweetness. Those things are very important to me in my connections with people, and yeah, I think like there's nothing wrong with being raunchy. It's hot and like very cool. I also love to see fat women being raunchy because at the same time as being expected to be slutty, we are also weirdly desexualized. So, it's like you kind of can't win as a fat woman, and it's very challenging to embody sexuality and freedom when you're constantly told, that you're disgusting.
Yeah, totally.
And I think everybody has body image like issues, right? That's not actually something that's like specifically linked to being fat, but there is a difference in terms of like how you can access it's just privilege, right? Like
Yeah.
you can have like, you know, bad body image and be thin and, you know, hate your body and feel like you're not good enough, because that's what femininity does to everybody.
Yeah.
You know, it's a losing game.
Yeah.
And so of course you can have those feelings, but you know, ultimately, if you put pictures of yourself on the internet, like, you're just going to have a wider, like a deeper client pool. And
Right.
like, there's just going to be more people who are attracted to you because you represent the, like, a closer relationship to the standard, you know, beauty.
Right.
So for me, like, as a fat person, and like, I have a particular type of quote unquote BBW, you know, body, which is that I have like a very big belly. And that is like not the kind of BBW that you see kind of, you know, exploding all over the place in, and being like rewarded and sort of slowly more accepted. It's like big tits, big ass, flat stomach, like those things are a type of BBW that, like, even a man who likes thin women can learn to appreciate.
Right.
But if you're fat in ways that, like, you have a double chin and a fat belly and kind of small tits and a wrinkly ass, you're maybe less, you know, you have less people to choose from, because, you know, the people who are like, they just fewer people that are interested. So it's been quite an interesting journey for me to learn how to speak to clients and how to like make it. I mean, I've been working, you know, I'm still fairly new, like you know, only a few years in, and you know, I definitely want to, you know, some people kind of leave the industry by this time, and then others go in for the long haul, and so I do want to acknowledge that I'm still really new and have lots to learn and lots of stuff to build. But I do feel like, I don't know, I've worked really hard to try to make it a full-time gig. It's kind of difficult to do that in Vancouver.
Yeah.
Because most people don't want to fuck fat women.
Yeah.
Which sucks. And it's their loss. God damn it.
Yes, exactly. They're missing out. But
that's a lot of squish here for you to have. For the cushion, as they say.
Well, akin to what you said, because I was actually speaking with Karina like a few months ago about, oh my gosh, you're going on tour again. And then she's like, I have to go on tour. I have to go on tour because here, like, it's like limited, she finds. It's like not as busy as she wants it to be. So,
no.
Yeah, it's
just a totally different game for fat escorts than it is for thin ones. And sometimes it's like, I have a hard time, like, I love my thin cohort as well, like, you know, my coworkers who are, or colleagues, I guess you could say, who are thin, and, you know, I have a lot of friends, most of my sex worker friends are thin. I have maybe, like, one other friend that's not, a thin person, and, you know, I think, like, everybody experiences the, you know, ups and downs of sex work, but I feel like it's hard to connect sometimes because my work and the things that I struggle with are so different as a fat person.
Right. Yeah, that must be very, very isolating for yourself. Like, how do you navigate that?
Can be.
Yeah, and lonely.
How do I navigate that?
Yeah, how do you navigate through that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I navigate that as I navigate loneliness in my personal life. I mostly just recognize that, like, you know, we're all just doing our best, and I try to meditate and keep my dishes clean, etc. Those are the things that I do to navigate my loneliness. But, yeah, I don't know. You know, I found, like, a little group of whores that I relate to, and you know, that feel like that I connect with on a personal level, and you know, those are relationships that I invest in because they're the most supportive ones. And yeah, it's interesting to try to find belonging in general in your 30s. Like, it's a really different experience of community, you know, than it is when you're in your 20s. And yeah, I remember being like in my 20s and you know, being part of the queer community and like just so desperately wanting to like belong to a group of people who had the same experiences. And it's the same as a queer person, like as a fat queer person, because desirability doesn't stop at the borders of community, right? Like, you, as a fat queer person, I also experience a lot of fat phobia and a lot of silent fat phobia and anti-fat bias. And so people, it's like hard to date, and and in general I experience the same kind of stuff. So and most of my friends are thin queers as well. So it's just in general hard to be a fat person in Vancouver. I think it's a very fitness, quote unquote, focused environment. And by fitness, I mean thinness.
Yeah, it's so true.
So,
oh
it's
my
like,
gosh.
It's hard for sure.
It's
But
definitely challenging.
we have mountains and I want to stick to them, so I'm not going anywhere.
No, Vancouver is great in other ways, but I hear you with that. I mean, I think it's just a typical West Coast kind of vibe. Yeah. I'm sure you would find this. Yeah, like, I mean, coast
Pacific
to coast.
Northwest for sure.
Yes, like LA and California, Seattle, Portland, all those places, they have similar problems too.
Totally.
How do you feel about the terms BBW and plus size? Is there one that you resonate with more, or what do you go by? Because when I was speaking with Carla Lane, she doesn't like, I don't want to say just she doesn't like, but she prefers the term plus size because she feels that BBW is stigmatizing. But what are your thoughts on that?
Well, BBW is a porn category, right? It's like, it stands for Big Beautiful Woman.
Yes.
And I I utilize it for like, alt text and search words.
Yeah, marketing.
It's a thing that I put in my copy on my website so that people can find me, because that's like what's on ad sites, and that's how men like whatever think.
Yeah.
But I don't use it as an identity word because I don't want my identity words to be formulated by the porn industry.
Yeah, good.
And so it doesn't mean anything to me in that way. And plus size is like another kind of practical word that I use when I'm talking about clothing or fashion, which I also do because I'm a personal stylist.
Oh, what? Girl, how many things do you do? I love it.
Literally so many things.
Holy
it's like,
shit.
I've just monetized every interest that I have.
I love the hustle.
Yeah, so like plus size, like I definitely talk about plus size people and like the plus size industry and like whatever, but I don't, again, identify as plus size because that's just nonsense. It doesn't mean anything. Like, it's a category that has been created by an industry to exclude or like exploit us. Yes. So again, I don't care for it, but will use it if I need to. And so I just call myself fat, honestly. That's what I am.
I love
it. I think there's a lot of euphemisms for fat bodies that are annoying and boring and sad, and I don't really want to use them because they don't feel right. And I like using the word fat because, especially as a sex worker, because like, it might be easy to call ourselves fat sex workers amongst other sex workers or to like civs or something, but inside of sex work, I don't see a lot of people calling themselves fat as a marketing tool. And I kind of like like to be a bit of an iconoclast. And so I do like to say that because it's like a little, it's a little bit like arresting, I think, when you see the word and you're not used to it. And I just want to normalize it. And like, I mean, so many fat women who are like public facing people, in public industries are doing that and have been doing that for a long time, way before I entered the scene. And so, but I'm not doing anything radical. I mean, I just like doing what feels right. But I like calling myself a fat girl, and I do a lot of like some of my online work. I also have like an OnlyFans and do some video work and stuff under the name Stevie Lake.
Yes.
Like I talk about being like your fat girlfriend. I like the idea of being like somebody's fat girlfriend.
I like that.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of this thing? A couple called a 10. Have you ever heard of that?
Ted? No, what is
A
that?
10. It's like
10.
one person's the 1 and the other person's the 0. So I love this dynamic of like a tall, thin man and me being like a fat little troll.
I love this.
Yeah, just a little lumpy dumpy. So
Okay.
yeah. Anyway.
No, that's
Yeah.
really cool. I love that you own that term, the term fat, and now that you're using it towards your branding, towards your marketing, and making that, as you said, normalized.
Yeah.
To remove that stigma. Yeah, I think that's great because, as you said, there's so much stigma when it comes to talking about body and
Yeah.
and talking about specifically fat bodies, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, thank you so much for sharing those experiences. It's so valid and a conversation. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot. You know,
We don't have it in a lot of places, but you know, the conversations are happening just like under the surface in, you know, amongst like fat activists for sure and fat people.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about it for sure.
Yeah. So hopefully this can broaden the conversation too.
Yeah, it's bubbling up.
Yes. Like, well, along those lines, I wanted to ask. I love your Instagram handle. Big
girl energy.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
It goes like this. Big girl energy. A big girl energy.
Yeah.
Think about that when you see my brand. A girl energy. Anyways, yes.
It's gonna be like it. It's gonna be in my head for the rest of the day now.
Big
like an anthem.
Energy. You can see me doing like little toe taps and snaps. Little jazz moves.
I can't unsee this now. Like
and you shouldn't.
Well, tell us about this big girl energy. Where did this come from and like what does it mean to you?
I guess it's like mostly just about like, you know, I struggle with my relationship with my body like every person does. And, you know, I don't have, you know, like perfect self-love relationship. Like, I think that's, you know, it's a tall order and one that's expected from fat people a lot, you know, this quote unquote confidence, etc. And I guess for me, it's sometimes can be really hard. I just can struggle a lot and with fat hatred in the world and internalized fat phobia. And I mostly am just like, all of my brand is about like trying to make I'm trying to just like, how do I describe it? Like, I know what I am, you know, I know what you see when you look at me, and I want to be able to embody what is real with as much, you know, zhuzh as possible. And I think part of my work as like an actor is like, you know, people are going to see what you are hiding, no matter what you do, and you'll never be able to hide. And so you're only hiding from yourself, basically. And so I try really hard to lean into the things that make me uncomfortable sometimes. And so when I'm having a bad body day or I feel like self-conscious about a certain part of my body, I'll often take nudes specifically of that body part. Or like if I'm like, I'm this part of my body is sexy because it approximates a thin body, you know, like certain parts of my body that look like curves that maybe I could like imagine myself being thin. And so instead I'll take a picture of the part of my belly that like hangs over, you know, or the part of my ass that's lumpy or whatever it is that feels like the wrong way to be fat. And yeah, I mean, it's just a tool that I use.
I
not
think
like
it's
perfect
great.
or anything, but it's just a tool to like try, because often I'll like, you know, force myself to embody the part of myself that I want to avoid or hide from myself, and be like, no, this thing exists, and you exist, and you're fine just as you are. And often I'll like look at those photos and be like, damn, she's good looking. And and it's like a way for me to accept that, like, this is a mortal coil we are in, and this body's not going to be around forever. So anyways, big girl energy is a little bit like that. I think it's like the feeling of like, I have something specifically amazing to offer, and I'm not trying to be anything else. I'm not trying to be a thin girl. I am a fat girl, and you're gonna fucking like it, bitch. You like it. This is the thing, is like, actually you like it. You don't know that you like it until you know. But you're allowed to like it. That's the thing. It's like, people like, people are embarrassed to, and like scared. It's like approximation, like, proximity to fatness is scary because fat people are like a representation of mortality, right? We're so terrifying because we represent the thing that is like, you can't control. And I feel like that is really powerful, and I want to be in that sometimes, Sometimes I'm like, hold on to this big girl and let me take you down. Because it feels good, and you can relax, and it feels good. So let it.
I really like that process that you have just explained to me. Like, that is really brave and also beautiful too, and hard. Like, there's so many things.
For sure.
I
hate myself 90% of the time, to be honest. It's like, these are things that I'm I'm not like, perfect all the time and love myself. And I'm not some magical person who's escaped fat hatred in the world. I completely often succumb to it and resent my body and feel sad and want to escape it and all the things that everybody feels. But
totally,
I guess doing that is just like a tool to try to get myself back in as much as I can to take care of myself. Yeah.
I think that's incredible. And again, that's
amazing, Sia.
I love everything that you've said here, and just so many points that you've brought up in this episode. I really hope brings some things to light too, and also can shine some privilege on us quote unquote normal bodied people. So thank you for uncovering that and just sharing your experience with me and the audience. I'm sure a lot of people will really gain something from this episode. But there are some questions that came in, just a couple questions here. So let's get into it. What are some strange requests you have received as an escort?
Strange requests. Oh my God, it's been a really long time since I've had a strange request. Most people just want to bury their face in my ass. And that feels really normal to me.
I love it.
I've done some strange stuff, but nothing, I don't know. I have, when I was doing some dom stuff, I was doing some humiliation things. A lot of people don't know, a lot of men don't know what they want, right? They think they want something and then they don't want it, or especially with fetish and being submissive. And so I was experimenting with my interests around humiliation. And one session that I had was I made this guy go into and stand in front of the bathroom mirror and yell compliments at himself. And I was like, I want you to stand in front of the mirror and tell yourself that you are worthy. And I want you to look at yourself in the eyes, and I want you to believe it. And then when you're done, you're going to come out and you're going to walk to me like a man. and I was like, you're going to do a walk and you're going to come to me and you're going, and he just couldn't do it because he was such a submissive failure. But it was just so funny that my desire to humiliate someone is to make them feel like they accept themselves, because it's how that is the most humiliating thing.
Totally.
Is to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm worthy. Like, oh God, can you imagine doing it? It's disgusting. Anyways, so that's the only thing I could think about is like, you know, these types of people who want to be humiliated. I'm like, I just want to be loved.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I actually have a side question. I want to hear more about that fart fetish, because I actually had someone not too long ago, like this month, request a farting video, which I did for like 10 seconds, and then he paid me $50, and I was like, okay.
Awesome. Yeah, I've done a little bit of fart stuff, like, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to know exactly where these things originate and why they're hot, but probably it's just that it's like, it's really like the opposite of what's expected of, like, you know, people who embody femininity.
Right.
And to me, I think there's something transgressive about it. And, you know, it just as anything that's a fetish, like, it can be empowering and it can be disempowering. And, you know, like, sometimes it feels good. Like, I don't know, I'm very public. I would say public farter, but I'm not public farter, but I'm like, I like to, like, I don't know, I'm just like, look, if you know me, if you're friends with me, I fart a lot, I fart in front of people, and I'm not going to be ashamed of it, because it's better to bear the shame than bear the pain. But when it's like fetishized, I just find it gross. Like, I'm like, I don't know, I can't, it's not hot to me. You know, and my first session, was with a fart guy, and he literally put his lips around my butthole, and I just farted into his throat. Oh, wow. Oh. It was the weirdest first session to ever have. Like, I was like, what? I don't know. You know, you don't have to put that in the episode, but
oh, I'm keeping it in.
I'm open to it if you want to. But
I'm keeping it in.
It's weird, you know. People like weird shit and whatever, you know.
I think it's great.
It's like, do it if you like to do it, and don't do it if it makes you uncomfortable. But I don't think there's anything weird about it, like, other than the just general weirdness of sexuality. Yeah,
sexuality is like so diverse and all over the place, and
gross. Like, we want to like rub our sweaty genitals together. We want to slam our sweaty bodies together. It's disgusting.
But people pay money for it, and this is why we exist.
Yes, it's so funny. Like, to me, sexuality is like and sex is like the epitome of absurdity, honestly. And it's just so perfect. I love it. It's just so weird.
And this is, well, I mean, weird attracts weird, and I definitely consider myself as a weird person, and I'm definitely okay with it.
Oh, yeah. You gotta, like, lean in, otherwise it's just a very uncomfortable existence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Evie Brookes, it was so nice to have you on the show, but...
Yeah, real pleasure.
Before I let you go, where can we find you?
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter at Evie_Brookes. Brookes is spelled Brookes. And I have a website. You can book me for in-person meetings very soon at www.eviebrooks.com. I'm also on OnlyFans under Stevie Lake, which is spelled Stevie, Lake, as in the body of water.
Water, yes.
Those are the places, I think. Oh yeah, and then Instagram under Big Girl Energy, which is like, I don't know, can you put it in the show notes?
Yeah, everything will go in the show notes. Yes, everything will all be there.
Big Girl Energy.
Yes, and make sure you go ahead and book Evie, because I know from the other escorts I've had on the show, they have gotten some bookings from the show, which makes me feel great. So go book Evie. Awesome. She's open for bookings.
Yeah, book me if you want to ride the fat wave.
I love it. Well, that's all, folks. It's Strip by Sia on Instagram. Also, my personal, get at me, Sia Steph. And it's new episodes every single Sunday. And don't forget to like, rate, share, and subscribe, and write me a review if you feel really nice. And we'll catch you guys in for another episode next week. Bye. You're listening to Strip by Sia, Hosted, produced, and edited by Steph Sia. Artwork by Maria Bellandarama. Music by Ted D. And photography by Ian Davern.